Hello everyone, Osk here. The Delisted game is one of those games where we all have to live with, no matter how much we hate that. There are probably multiple reasons why games get delisted. Either a studio/server shutting down, some publisher changing, or in the case of Activision, licensing issues. But what if there's a game that have a pretty weird reason to get delisted? It's either due to the publisher doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, or just improve the game and make a better version of the game. And that's what I plan to talk about. Delisted games that have some pretty odd or weird reason to get delisted. So don't wait, let's get into it. Now, talking about this first game, it's kind of difficult because someone in the screenshot and try and make a little sense of this. Now, this game is called Limbo the Lost, a 2008 game created by Necessary Studio, a company that literally only released Limbo of the Lost, which is very... I don't know how to describe this. Interesting, pathetic, embarrassing. I don't know, it's just one of those words. However, before they will be branded to Necessary Studio, they went by Trilogic, a company that made Limbo of the Lost. Am I repeating things? Well, not really, because Limbo of the Lost didn't start development until 1993 on the Amiga 1200 as a point-and-click adventure text game. However, the team switched to development to the PC because, well, the Amiga wasn't very good. And then they died. Wait, what? Yeah, no joke, the team just dissolved until 2003 where they reformed as Necessary Studio, even though the team is filled with only 3 people. So there's a lot to take in regarding of, well, quick about how disgusting every single character is and how, well, these 2 characters are voiced by the same person, but yet don't even try to sound distinct.
After all he's been around, and in my view he should be crowned the king of Limbo. Well, he's had his ups and he's had his downs. He's had his smiles and he's had his frowns.
Or the fact that one of the characters is named after the F slur. Which one? Take a wild fucking guess. But what makes this really important is the only part of the game that looks decent, and that is the background. Now, these backgrounds would have been good if these, well, devs didn't stole them. Just a wiki that have an extended catalog on what exactly was stolen just to make this game. Both Morrowind and Oblivion, Thief, and even Baldur's Gate. But not even just that, different sound effects, character design, and even the fucking cursor were stolen. And the funny part is that the intro, the first thing you literally see is just the fucking hell scene from Spawn. Spawn! Obviously, people were asking why they thought it's okay to tarnish their good work by putting which the team responds with saying that they will outsource the background, saying that they technically did nothing wrong. However, that basically contradicts a previous interview they did with one of the devs, saying that they basically did the background all by themselves. The funny part is that this isn't even the first time running with legal trouble. Steven Bjorns, one of the 3 devs, was making a 3D remake of Dungeon Master, which came under fire after they didn't get approval of the rights holders. So after being caught on a lie and being so overconfident, the publisher decided to basically pull the game and issue an apology. Since then, Majority Studio is, well, disbanded and forgotten, to say the least. To this day, people are still trying to find where all this story actually came from, and it only gave a game a life after its death. This is one of the times I see someone do so little with so little. I mean, yeah, sure, it's disgusting, sleazy, and uncomfortable, but it have a very weird charm to it, to say the least, or rather, best. However, I could not say the same thing to this next game. Unlike, well, Limbo of the Lost, where it was being, well, comically incompetent. With this next game, it was just pure incompetent. And that game I'm trying to talk about is Too Human. Too Human is one of those games where the amount of litigation I heard about them is astounding. Too Human was made by Silicon Knights, a name that you might be familiar with for multiple reasons. They made this Legacy of Kain franchise, a franchise that was really good until a MOBA just decided to ruin it. They also created Eternal Darkness, by far the well-regarded GameCube game of all time, and helped to create Twin Snake, a game that is controversial to say the least. Another thing you might know about them is how they burn every single brick they ever formed. The publisher wanted to take Legacy of Kain to a different direction, pseudo over story concept. They hire you're close to Nintendo as a second-party developer to the point consider yourself as a company inside Nintendo rather than one that works alongside of it. You trade that relationship to the second you sniff a better deal. Silicon Knight is one of those dev teams looking for their game to make it their way, and interferes you get shot on sight. And it was the same thing with 2 Human. The game entered development in 1996, where it was visioned to run it on 4 PlayStation discs. It was the same size of Final Fantasy VIII, which is already a big game as it is. However, developers shifted when they learned they would now be making a GameCube version of it. It's gone so far in development that it was shown in Nintendo version of E3, which is Space World. Except in 2005, Silicon Knight decided to leave Nintendo by basically making a deal with Microsoft. Since Microsoft is now publishing the game, they expanded further by a full-on trilogy of games, cause yeah, that's a good idea to do first. The transition to next-gen hardware proving to be a very difficult task for all involved when it comes to creating an engine to run their game. So Silicon Knight chose to outsource that and license the Unreal Engine 3 from Epic Games. Unreal has to be one of the most, Unreal Engine in gaming, giving life to anything, just as the Arkham franchise, Alice in Madness Return, and even Gears of War. Remember that. Now, I forgot to mention one more person, and that is Dennis Dyack. Dennis was in a dev team since day one and was not happy about the E3 demo being so bad. Doesn't help the fact that this game is a $10 million budget Microsoft-backed experience, and yet it looks like still a GameCube game. So, what did they do? Did they change engine? Did they actually improve other graphics? Did they actually delay the game to the point that they sue Epic? Alleged that Epic was keeping important information on how to utilize the engine in order to keep their flagship series Gears of War a head start in the market. They were so confident that they demand profit of Gears of War to turn over to them for damage they've done to 2 Human. However, Epic Games, for once, didn't do anything. In fact, Silicon Knights did it all to themselves. Not only the game performed poorly, their defense also did poorly. You see, turns out someone is stealing, but not the one who were accused. When looking through the code of 2 Humans, it was found out that the code was the exact same as Unreal 3, which means that Silicon Knights was unlawfully using what Epic has made. This refers to a $4 million lawsuit that Silicon Knights had put forward into a $9 million one that turned back to them, which is the reason why the company went under in 2014. And the funny part is that 2 Human was considered stolen goods, and it wasn't just taken down off digital storefront. The physical copies that remained were meant to be destroyed, not stored away, just destroyed. How are you made willing to sell your copy, if you still have it, of 2 Human in eBay? And once you go there, you notice that the copy is cheap. And may be wondering why, and mostly because the game practically sucks. It's not very good, and even with the scarcity, nobody cares. So why do you even want the game to begin with? So that was, 2 Human, arguably the only game that probably deserved the delisting. So yeah, I couldn't think of a segue between 2 Human and FNAF World. Sue me. FNAF World is the very dark sheet of the FNAF series. Most of the game is just point-and-click horror games, while this is a RPG. Any regular franchise couldn't get away from this, but FNAF did. I mean, yeah, sure, the game announcement was met with, yeah, nice one, Scott, see you next April. But no, when Scott revealed that it is real, people were, mixed, to say the least. FNAF is entirely tied to its own lore, and this seemed to have nothing to do with it, and it was more of a spin-off. So this was taking time away from getting to the next part of the story, and it caused some uproar. But from the trailer, the game looks amazing, with high-quality 3D overworld, a fantastic battle system, and a ton of animatronic with a cute new style. I can't wait to play it. Hey, wait a minute. So in the trailer, it seemed to be the fully realized overworld was now swapped of a cheap Atari-inspired overworld, which, while it is a callback from the series from the Atari minigame, it doesn't seem very impressive. And to make it worse, the game was very glitchy, unpolished, and genuinely reeks of gut content, and it really was. FNAF earned a reputation of releasing a game a few good months before they were expected to release. However, except for FNAF World, it just seemed to didn't. However, you may be wondering that there is still a fully playable version of it, and that's because, well, I'm not talking about that version of it. I'm mostly talking about the Steam version of it. I'm so sneaky. And plus, FNAF World is still delisted off Steam, and there is an improved version of the game fully uploaded in Game Joe for absolutely for free. And on top of that, the game will go on to get even more updates, getting new characters, story scenario, minigame, and even trailer for its sister location. I feel like this is one of many examples of a game that was delisted for a while but later relisted with an improved version of it, and I'm happy to say that Scott Cawthon had the integrity to rectify a mistake.
One more step and this weird thing gets it!
Don't be rash.
I won't lie, seeing these games getting delisted is kind of disappointing. Seeing how much interesting media that can be lost when companies decide to do something like this is basically a bad feeling. Yeah, sure, this is still available, but even then, that's still gonna be gone forever. If you got them, good. If you don't, then you better find someone who does. But luckily, there are some positive, news. Treasure Session games are becoming more, available to everyone. People are willing to burn discs just to keep games. The entire Wii catalog are being backed up, and even emulation is much easier than ever. Let's not forget about companies like Limbo Games are updating old games to keep them in the hands of people as close to their original form as possible. It's sad that games like this has to be lost forever for one reason or another, but it shows the dedication of the community to not let history die. However, I would say maybe let the guy game die. It won't kill us. I mean, the less child porn, the better.